sometimes as a founder, you have to put your health to the side to get that new feature out at 2 a.m. And especially if you're younger, I mean, I just saw founder posts like San Francisco's back, and it's like 8 guys on mattresses in a room, like coding at like 3 a.m. and the room's like dark and it's just like laptop glow. And if you're in your early 20s and you're in AI, like, and now is, I mean, like it's the gold rush, like by all means do that. But overall, work-life balance can be, like 6 months of restorative, like I'm chill. I hired this new person to take this off of my plate, and then they quit in 6 months or they get fired, and then I had to back into the fire. And so.
Welcome to the Growth Mavericks podcast, where we know that entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy. It's about stamina. It's about disrupting your default and getting comfortable being uncomfortable so you don't burn out before you break through. I'm your host, Adam Callinan. Let's get to work. My conversation today is with Andrew Lee Miller. He is the founder of GrowthExpertz. He has over 20 years of experience dealing with early stage growth. He's been involved in a number of startup exits. He wrote a book called The Startup Growth Book, and he's the host of the Funded Now What podcast, one that I was a guest on at some point recently. Maybe it's out now, maybe it's not. You can find him at andrewstartups.com. I really enjoyed this conversation because Andrew is extremely direct, and the way that he communicates provides a lot of really tactical guidance and feedback, particularly in and around the difference between marketing and advertising and how an early stage brand needs to look at and leverage those two things. Something that we didn't, in hindsight, do as well as we could have at Bottle Keeper, and it sort of reframes how I think of what we're doing now. As you expect, we get into the do the hard things conversation, which he has certainly incorporated into his life and gotten comfortable being uncomfortable and moved all over the world as a result of that. So here we go with Andrew Miller. What's up, Andrew? Thanks for coming, man. Are you still in Mexico?
I'm still in Mexico for 2-3 more weeks, but super excited to be here, Adam. I haven't done a podcast in a while. I did a lot back in the day, and it didn't really drive a ton of result. And then I met you, and I was like, I'll do anything with this guy. So I'm here.
Well, I will always take flattery.
Maybe not anything. That sound clip could have gone.
Yeah, that could go south fast. We'll leave that one alone.
Okay. Anything professional, I meant.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The clarification is important. So why don't we just start with talking about GrowthExpertz and what you do there and how you got there as a starting point?
Yeah, so I started my career almost 20 years ago. I started by founding a startup in college. We did virtual resumes for graduating college kids. And without trying to make this a 10-minute response, we did pretty well, and I realized there's stuff. But we raised some money, and I didn't like anything that was going on. I was in my 20s and putting in 18-hour days, and I was like, I'm only having fun with the marketing part. So I was like, I'm going to go do this for other startups that have already handled all the other parts. And that's kind of what led me to leaving America. And I first went to Mexico. I know it sounds like I'm still there, but I came back only during COVID. But then I went to Dubai and had a big startup success there by that exact thesis, just joining a company that was amazing product, screwing up at marketing. And I'll talk about that later, but it's a really common problem for engineering and product focused founders. So fast forward 10 years after that huge success, and I was in San Francisco and joined a company in the B2B space, which was totally different, had never done it. Lo and behold, same problems. Founders are building amazing products, don't understand marketing. Joined them 2.5 years later, had another exit that was almost wholly driven by the marketing that I had done. I decided to start GrowthExpertz because I saw this as a service being a dopamine hit for me every day. 2 years with one company, sometimes there's downs. There's times when you don't need to do marketing because the product and ops teams are overloaded. But if you work with a bunch of companies that all need marketing, I'll get to do this amazing thing that I love all the time. And most people don't love it that I work with. So I found a sweet spot. And obviously I was very early in remote work. That was really important to me also at the time. So it got me to be my own boss, write my own ticket, work with brilliant people, not put all my eggs in one basket, and continuously get addicting wins. And so fast forward now, it's like our 9th or 10th year. We're specifically focused on helping companies with more than just marketing now. The last couple of years has been also help bringing in other people with similar level of experience as myself on sales, HR, business development, tech and product, legal and compliance, and we fractionally apply those people to companies, which is really hot right now as well.
Amazing. Marketing is a big umbrella term. It means a lot. What is marketing to you? Like, when you went into those couple of companies, whether it was in Dubai or in Mexico or in San Francisco, and they were struggling at, like, air quote, marketing, what did that mean to you?
Yeah. So I bucketed everything you do before you start advertising. Marketing is not advertising. Advertising is just throwing money when you have a lot of it and figuring it out as you go. When I don't work with companies, that's what they do. They skip the marketing step, which I'll get into. There's 3 main steps that we work on inside of marketing to get them ready for growth and advertising. But if they skip all those and they go to advertising, it's almost 100% of the time a mistake. They waste a lot of time. If you have an exorbitant amount of money, you can use that money to accelerate the learning with advertising, but it's often better. And so what we do marketing wise is we finalize the marketing foundation for a company. So there's often some kind of data, some kind of strategy, some things the founders have tested that have worked. That's one part of it. There's also niche industry specific channels that we want to test that are different for every company. And then there's often the battle tested things that we know as a company with 20 plus years experience I have that it will work. And so we put together a strategy that we want to test, but we first finalize the messaging and the marketing foundation. What a market to me, I mean, I made up the term a long time ago, but what it means is, your messaging, your analytics, your search optimization, your social media strategy, the conversion rate optimization of your website or app listing page. These are things that are going to 10x any other campaign we do after it. So we want to handle that first. Then we go to market with organic strategies. Oftentimes early stage companies, even if they've raised millions of dollars, are pretty confident that they shouldn't blow tons of money on marketing. And that's where my sweet spot is. I'm like as one client calls me, a cheap ass, but a very scarcity focused marketer, because I want to prove things out for free. So we save the money for once things are proved out. Things like the landing pages that work, the features that people care about, the type of content that resonates, the platform that works the most to drive conversions. If we figure those things out organically, I had something in my eye, then we can layer over that with much less spend and get much more conversions from it. And that reduces a startup's failure rate quite a bit.
So in looking at the companies that you went into that had those problems, were they guilty of advertising without having done the marketing?
Almost every time. Yeah. And
Really?
Oftentimes when I speak at an event or even reach out to a company I love, I also have a podcast. I won't plug it here, but Adam was on
You
it.
can plug it.
Episode,
I was just on it. Yeah, it's great.
Funded Now What, coming out next week. If you're so a lot of founders I reach out to be on the podcast, or we chat after the podcast. I'm like, you should come and work with us. And they're like, oh, we got like 100K. We're going to spend it on ads instead. And then a month later, they'll come back like, yeah, that was a total waste. It happens almost on a weekly basis. I have a call on Friday with a founder that just came back after. He's like, we're going to run some ads on Facebook. And then I was like, cool. And then he sent me afterwards the ad creative, and it's just like terrible. And they don't think, I think the money, I'm like, yeah, he spent more money than we would have charged in the first month working together on just the ads. And now he realized it was a waste, and it is what it is. And it's not their fault. These ad platforms, as personal end users, we're getting inundated with ads. So we're like, oh, that must be what we should do also as business owners. In tech, and especially if you have a SaaS product or even a high ticket item like that you would sell B2B, it's not always the best case scenario. And so, but yeah, there's always some form of founder led traction that they've got, and some of it's good and some of it's bad. So that's why I said at the beginning, that is part of a successful marketing strategy, is looking over that data and figuring out what's worked and what hasn't, and then growing that. And so, one of the best things we do is kind of take the founder out of marketing. You just need to come to meetings with us so we can tell you what's working, and then you need to review things to make sure that it's on brand and got the right voice. And that's about it.
It's interesting. I've looked at startups. I mean, any business is like this, but I think it's more flagrantly apparent in the earliest stages. Until you hit 10 or 15, maybe 20 million in revenue, or like you're literally dumping fuel on a fire at that point. Not in every case, but certainly in a lot of cases. The startup world is like a 1,000-piece puzzle, but all the pieces are not equally weighted. They're not all the same size. And so what you're talking about, and I look at that from the context of like the website you talk about that. I mean, there's your conversion rate, there's all these data and KPIs and all this stuff, and none of it really matters without context. It all can be manipulated and misled without context. And they're all important, but they're not all equally important. And so the idea that going and spending the ad dollars, even if you have the most epic campaign and ad set structures on the planet and the coolest headlines ever, it doesn't matter if you're missing all these other pieces of the puzzle, destined to burn it down in a very expensive, painful way. Mm-hmm. So when you work with what's your process? Like if you take on a, XYZ company, they're doing 4 million. What's your ICP? Like what's your ideal company?
So industry agnostic. The ICP is that they suck at marketing and don't want to waste time on it anymore. No, I mean, like, really, we work with companies that aren't even startups anymore. And so my team has me like, stop saying startups all the time, because we also work with tech companies that have grown through going to market through partnerships. And they're at 7 mil, 10 mil ARR, but they're just now starting marketing. So, but the thing that holds them all common is they don't have an optimized website, or even this company that I was thinking of didn't even have a website yet. They were just going to market through partnerships, prove the product out, and they're like, all right, now we have enough revenue to stand on our own 2 feet, self-funded. They didn't raise any money. So we are, a lot of companies we work with are in B2B SaaS, but I'm ex-Tinder and love B2C companies, but there's a lot more. I mean, you talk about the 1,000-piece puzzle, that's like a 10,000-piece puzzle if you're B2C, whereas B2B is like really replicable and really easy for us to win. B2C, depending on if you're targeting Gen Z. I mean, I'm a 40-year-old dude. I do have some early 20 people on the team, but like those are harder projects to win, and we have to really love the product to work with a company. So it's, we like to work on only things that are helping advance the world, helping people in some way, and that we see us being able to be really successful in. Like, I mean, we're just addicted to wins. And so if I meet with founders and I'm like, oh, these people are really smart, but they suck at marketing, I'm like super excited about it, because I know within 30 days we're going to have an incredible result. And that's what I love doing the most. That's what gets me out of bed and gets me able to work 18 hours on a day, because the wins are addicting. So I try not to be like super specific, because if there's someone out there that applies to what I just said, but is out of the wheelhouse of, prop tech, we help companies in telecom, in obviously lots of AI companies now, because those are really smart engineers that are really bad at marketing, and it's such a competitive space and like the time availability for them to win the window's short. So they have to go pretty hard on marketing right from the beginning. So we have a lot of companies in AI, but they're in everything from microbiology to meetings and HR. So really, really the gamut. And, I just try to be as wide as possible, because again, these problems are so replicable. I wrote a book that goes through every single channel and how we approach it from a growth hacking, no spend point of view. And the amount of people that reach out to me from different parts of the world with different startups and say it's still relevant to them, even almost 4 years old, it surprises me every day.
What is working? I mean, let's back up. It's not surprising that you can create something like that can be evergreen, right? I mean, if you're getting into, again, going back to like campaign, ad set structure, specific things within a given channel, I mean, that's going to probably be moved on by the time the book publishes.
True.
But general marketing thesis, cross-channel marketing thesis, I think that's not surprising that has remained evergreen. What is, from a B2C standpoint right now, what do you see that's working really well, like surprisingly well? Is there a standout channel or two?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, everybody's obsessed with newsletters, and everyone's talking about building community, but they don't realize how hard that is and how much spend it takes. So one thing I definitely love saying is social media is a waste of time. It is not going to provide a high ROI. If you are an early stage business that has no customers and no downloads and no installs and no traffic to your site, Andrew, we have this amazing social media strategy. Are you going to spend money to promote your social media content? No, but we think it's going to go viral. Like, I don't want to cuss. Can I cuss on this podcast? I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and I'm an old man, but I interviewed 2 early 20s founders that are raising money the other day for a behavioral health science thing. And they were like, oh yeah, we have this amazing social media strategy. And I'm like, it's not going to, it's the platforms are
You missed
designed.
the bus.
Yeah, the
You're too late.
platforms are designed to make money. They're not giving you free shit, period. So what doesn't work is putting all your eggs in one basket. But if you look at social media following as maybe 1/10 in value as an email subscriber base, and you look at an email subscriber base and 1/10 is value as just partnering with someone who already has a huge following. And I think like, so the easiest thing B2C to do is to give some micro equity to some badass influencers in your space. This could be all the way up to like celebrity or athlete, difficult. But if you go and you see a news article of Kevin Durant investing in a startup, he is not a super savvy investor. Obviously, he's got a genius team with him. I was at a company that he invested in. So, I'm okay to say this publicly. The company's exited, it's gone. But he is putting his likeness and his 5 million social media followers and saying he's a founder. It's like a huge stamp of validation to people. So I think that's definitely something that really works. Going with the old school influencer engagements of like giving them $100 to make a post, you might get a boost in vanity metrics, but like actually getting someone who is like, let's say you have a tech solution for autistic children, going and getting the top autistic mommy blogger to work with you and say she's a founder and like she becomes the face of the company instead of you, hugely valuable and very successful because she's already got the baked in audience that would cost you K to acquire and you still have to convert them, whereas they'll just do anything that lady says. So I think that really is big. But yeah, people think, oh yeah, the community, we're going to build a community. It takes money and it takes a lot of time. Just like starting a podcast. I mean, you're only on your 3rd episode. I'm on like 20 something episodes and still only at a couple thousand organic listeners, but we're going to start spending money now, which is what it takes to really expand past that because Spotify, like anywhere else, is a pay to play environment. And so you got to have money if you're trying to grow organically, like an audience to use that. But over time, community is an amazing B2C marketing tool. You just got to grow it and it costs money.
Yeah. And I mean, further to that, we talked about this in our conversation recently. Going and spending the money before you have a functional system in place is so dangerous. And that's why, I mean, we talked about it in the context of Pente, like I will not spend paid dollar on paid media. I will not spend $1 on paid media for a significant amount of time, if ever.
Right.
It's just today, in 2015, you totally could. We built a whole company on it. It was epic. We could not spend money on Facebook fast enough. It was literally, we invested every nickel we had on inventory and paid ads.
That's all you needed.
And our ROAS was like 15x. It was printing money, but those are the good old days and they're gone, long gone.
Yeah.
So today, building a business model purely on paid media, you just have to know going into that it's the easiest it's ever going to be is today. And it's hard. Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible. And you're going to be on a slippery slope and it's going to suck forever.
And users are fickle. Everyone is inundated with thousands of ads. Funny thing, 2015, I was still saying, focus on organic marketing. Everyone was like, you're an idiot, dude. We're making so much money on this paid stuff. And I still see, I don't do any social media as an end user anymore at all. I don't even post once a year, nothing.
Yeah, me neither.
But I check on desktop maybe like 10 minutes a week, like Instagram messages from people who read the book or whatever. And I'll still see obviously startup ads and I'm just like, I should reach out to them and offer marketing help because the organic stuff is, you can't skip over it. You have to get it done at some point. It's also like, for instance, just with PR, what you said with the paid stuff, it'll work a lot better now. I mean, let's just say Google ads, for instance, there's this thing called a quality score, which I'm sure you know about. The better your SEO is and the better your keyword relevance is to the ad that you're advertising for on a Google search ad, for instance, or keyword targeting on a display ad, the lower your cost per click will be. And I have many times outperformed a $1 billion company on an ad because they're just like throwing $12 a click at it, but our quality score is like 100. And so our cost per click's like 10 cents or whatever, $1, probably not 10 cents, but
sure.
And it's the same thing for PR campaigns. If you get really solid PR campaign and someone sees your Instagram ad and then goes to Google and searches your name and sees a bunch of validating articles come up, that conversion is going to be much higher and probably not even tracked back to Facebook, the attribution, but
that's a whole nother deal. Attribution.
Exactly. Yeah. It's bad.
Yeah. It's non-existent. And it was bad in 2017. Now it's non-existent. But,
exactly.
It's funny. it's like that has completely inverted. In that 2015 example, we were literally just like spending as fast as we could spend. We weren't focusing on the organic, and we paid the price for it. Like, let's be real clear. We paid the price for it. We
Good to
scaled
hear.
up, we got into tens of millions, and our cost of acquisition, I mean, it slid every year starting in probably 2017. It slid every single year. And at that point, it's not that we were too late, but in hindsight, I feel like we were a little bit too late. The business was so dependent on paid media that then trying to convert that revenue model into an organic revenue model, honestly, it's not something we figured out. It was,
You
it
got
was a
very
big part of
lucky.
like, well, we got lucky with timing because
Exactly. Because
we
now,
had somebody come and want to buy it, and then we had another one come and we got to compete them off each other in
amazing.
21. Like today, it would be a totally different,
And no one
could be a
buys
very different
companies,
situation.
at least as far as I know, no one likes to buy companies that are wholly built on paid advertising anymore
No,
because you never know. The algorithm can change, the cost per click can change, and
totally.
then your business
There's too
goes
much
away.
risk.
But to your defense, all of the spend on ads probably made people, at least back then, with less knowledge of stuff. Like, I see these guys everywhere. We got to buy this company. Like,
Yeah, it was, the timing was lucky, and that drove like all of our follower base. It's not like because we were producing this like insane epic community focused content, like our follower base was growing because we were spending an incredible amount of money on
exactly.
ads,
Exactly.
and we were having fun in the comments and beefing on people because that's just what the brand was. But today it's completely inverted. I
Yeah,
mean,
you get
you have
canceled.
to stop. Yeah, you have to start on the organic and the community and the quality content, particularly as we like massively launch into this AI focused everything where robots are basically now creating all the content everywhere. Authentic is critically important. And then if using paid ads on top of that, I think once it's moving and running as fuel to the fire, sure. But your point is really important. A business is like an engine. It needs fuel to run. For consumer brands and pretty much every company on the planet, that fuel is profit. Without it, growth stalls and everything feels harder than it should be. Pentane helps you fine-tune your business and advertising so you're running at peak performance, showing you exactly what's driving your margins, your cash flow, and pricing power. No more wasted time in spreadsheets or guessing what's working, waiting until you get your P&L next month to see if it's good or bad. Just the clarity and direction you need to grow faster, smarter, and with less stress. So if you're running a consumer brand, go to pentane.com and fuel your growth today. What's not working other than just doing paid ads? Like, what are you seeing companies do that is,
So, like I said, I mean,
outlier?
social media is, so I actually, in my book, I break down social media marketing into two things. It's what you do on your own pages, which to steal from SEO, I call it on-page social media marketing, and what you do off of your own pages, which I call off-page social media marketing. On-page social media marketing, like caring every day what we're going to post on our own pages, unless you have, obviously, again, if you're B2C, don't kill me, you do need to, even B2B, you do need to create content, but you can batch it and do 1 day of work, create 30 days worth of content, not using AI to write it all, but there's promo.com, there's stock imagery, there's, all kinds of stuff, but I'll teach companies to create a strategy that makes it really easy for you to create a batch of content. And 10% of that should be talking about what your product is, 10% more about what your problem is, 10% more about testimonials from users and UGC or whatever it is. That's important, you need to do, but it's not going to work to really grow your brand unless you're spending money. And I will scream that from the rooftops. Yes, there are outliers. My wife is a former social media influencer, and she still argues, no, social media, I want to do it. I'm like, but you have a business that makes real money and you never made a single dollar from it from social media. Like, GrowthExpertz, obviously, it's very niche. Our clients are startups that have recently raised money and tech companies that are already doing a certain number of money to be able to pay for us. So social media never really worked for us. Even when I post stuff on LinkedIn, it's mostly just like book sales and people are like, thanks for helping and giving me free advice. And like, that's cool for karma, but social media is not, I'm not a huge fan of it. I think the detriment, like you said, like 10 years ago, could get so much value out of it. Now you get a neck pain and like a
Yeah.
FOMO, and that's it. And
Yeah.
so you
And an
have to,
emotional complex.
an emotional complex. But if you spend an hour a week going off of your own page and going onto the subreddits, the Facebook groups, the LinkedIn groups, the Quora questions, the YouTube videos that are related, and you create content and you post, like, reshare, comment, follow, and actively engage with that stuff that's really targeted, that does have a high return on time investment. So if you're an early stage startup that's dead broke, that's what I try to get people to focus on for social media. If you're like, especially if you have access to a fresh graduate or student that's like native into this stuff, like they're busting out memes and commenting on all kinds of stuff that would take old dudes like us, no offense, long time.
I'm none taken.
At least you got all your hair. So, I think that's what the way social media can be valuable, at least at the early stage. And then later, once you have data on this type of content works, this channel is the best for us to focus on, these hashtags drive in a lot of people, then you can have hopefully revenue, also hire a full-time social media manager, and then they can create a badass content strategy with really scaling it up and then build your community over the course of 3 years. So I'm not saying it will never work, but for early stage startups, the ROI is low.
Yeah. So changing gears, one of the things that I think is really important to talk about and continue to talk about is what are the things that we as operators do, or that, you get to work with a lot of them. I'm sort of working in a vacuum here outside of companies that we get invested in or whatever, people that I know personally. What are the things that business operators, founders, executives, directors do in their personal lives to build resiliency and build sort of an anti-fragile mental framework to be able to withstand these like massive swings and ups and downs that go with startups?
Love this question. Nobody has ever asked me, and as a health optimizer myself, I'm really excited to answer this. I mean, and I've got a really recent scenario too to back this. So I think that work-life balance doesn't mean like all in one day. Sometimes as a founder, you have to put your health to the side to get that new feature out at 2 a.m. And especially if you're younger, I mean, I just saw founder posts like San Francisco's back, and it's like 8 guys on mattresses in a room, like coding at like 3 a.m. and the room's like dark and it's just like laptop glow. And if you're in your early 20s and you're in AI, like, and now it's the gold rush, like by all means do that. But overall, work-life balance can be, like 6 months of restorative, like I'm chill. I hired this new person to take this off of my plate. And then they quit in 6 months or they get fired, and then I had to back into the fire. And so, but overall, I think that alcohol is terrible. I quit drinking 7 years ago, and I see a correlation between founders that party and drink too much. Even if you think that networking is a huge part of what you need to do, put the booze down. It does not help. It is. So I think founders, there's a shout out to Founders Running Club. I run every Saturday a 10K with a bunch of really badass founders. And the percentage of those dudes and chicks that are raising money compared to another founder I was working with that was like at every networking party I would ever go to, didn't raise money, and he's a genius. I think that there's a clear correlation between like a healthy get to bed as early as you can, get up early and get there again, that founder that was always networking was like, oh, I built this last night at 2 a.m. I'd get those emails, as opposed to, so like try and have as healthy as possible of a lifestyle. Another thing I realized way too late was like settling down with one partner. I'm okay to shame myself. I was definitely, as an early digital nomad traveling around the world, like an ex-Tinder worker.
Yeah.
Like the culture at Tinder in West Hollywood was very interested in the data around dating. So you want to go and get data. It's not like be in a relationship. Well, it turned me into like a, late 30s man-child before I actually settled down. And then you realize all this energy towards like, oh, this date I got to go on, and like getting to know someone over and over again. And then I started looking at all the entrepreneurs I know they're successful. They're all settled down, male or female, across the board almost, And so maybe not all, some people divorce whenever, serial entrepreneurs, like, men are toxic in general. I'll admit to that. But I think that, at least for me and now the people I discuss with, like the sooner you settle down with someone, the more energy you have to and support you have from your like life circle. I mean, you're married, dude, aren't you?
I am.
Been married
14 years. I mean, I met my wife in college.
Okay.
We met,
and look at what you've done.
since
How many
college.
companies you're on your 3rd company after 2 exits, right?
Well, I'm on like my 7th company, but I have
Okay.
had 2 exits.
But either way, I mean, that you are a data point in that direction. I think so. A healthy, well-balanced life, and if you can, a supportive partner. I think those are two awesome things.
Yeah, the supportive partner thing is, I don't honestly know how I would have like mentally made it through, those two exit companies. Like
Yeah.
it's so easy to look at the amazing ups, and those are the things that you hear about publicly, and those are the things that are in people's LinkedIn profile headers and whatnot. And that's good and great and grand, but it's not helpful. One, it's not reality,
Right.
right? I mean, those are little sound blips in something that takes years or decades to build. But I don't think it's particularly helpful for other operators to only hear the good stuff.
Totally. What's your partner's name?
Katie.
Katie. Shout out to Katie for being there
Yeah,
through the ups and
dude,
downs.
she's
14
she's the
years.
rock. Yeah.
14 years. What does she do?
She was in medical device for, we were in Southern California. We met at University of Arizona in college. And then,
People, relationships come out of that school? Isn't that like the party school where everyone just drinks through?
It was a fun school. Yeah.
Nice.
But we did meet at this magical place called Dirtbags. Shout out to Dirtbags. She was working. I was not.
Wait, like she was a bartender?
She was literally a waitress at Dirtbags.
Wow, that is the hardest pool. Okay, again, like going back to Tinder days, I mean, like I actually have half written a book about dating and comparing it to online marketing called Hacking the Online Dating Funnel. You never hit on a bartender. It's like rule number one. Because like also it's like being creepy to a chick that's constantly hit on all the time. So, you're a pretty good marketer then. I mean, you said something that worked.
It was like my best friend was the manager at the restaurant. I was in there having lunch one day. So it wasn't like your typical drunk
her guard was down,
hitting on the waitress move.
Nice.
So it was a
cool.
little,
she's going to love it.
She's less creepy than that
episode.
But to your point, like I'm going to do an episode with her talking about what it's like to be the partner.
Cool.
I mean, it's not any easier on them than it is on me. In a lot of cases, it's a lot harder. I mean, in Bottle Keeper, we didn't have kids. Now we have kids. Now we have a 3 and a 6-year-old.
Wow.
And granted, we're in a totally different place, but there's the partnership part is important.
Absolutely.
What do you do, or do you hear of founders? Like the physical thing is clearly, that's massive. Trying to maintain some physical fitness. I have a big belief in going and doing at least a couple of times a year something that's just like outrageously difficult that you don't actually think you can do. Because you can. You just have to prove to yourself that you can. And I discovered a lot of that in backcountry kind of hunting stuff. But
nice.
On the mental side, that's something that I overlooked for a really long time. And I massively paid the price for that. So how do you deal? I mean, now, like, meditation is a part of my life. Journaling is a part of my life. I have to pay attention to that or I will go off the rails.
Yeah, I found that stuff way too late. I literally saw the founder of Headspace speak at a conference in 2014. And I was like, that's crazy. That would never work for my ADHD brain. And now I'm like, I cannot survive a day without a morning meditation and like stopping to breathe intentionally like 3 or 4 times. So yeah, I think, like I said, work-life balance does not mean you have to do all this at the beginning. A lot of founders that are like, haven't even raised money yet are going to push all this shit to the side to just survive. If you're just in like make it or break it mode, don't worry about this stuff. Like do whatever you got to do to get there. And then but just notice that once you get a semblance of some success, you can start to invest in this. Like you going backcountry hunting, you're in a different level than the dude who's building his first thing or the chick that's building their first thing and just trying to make it. And, you'll get there eventually. And then you can do what Adam does and go and backcountry hunt mooses and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I guess everybody's baseline is different, right? Like I didn't go from couch potato to like running 50K trail races. I mean, there was a massive years long progression to identifying that, but I did have kind of a red pill moment that did revolve around a hunting situation.
Nice.
But I do think that, you as the listener, whoever that's paying attention to this, finding that thing that for you seems a bit out of reach from a physical standpoint. Don't go into it willy-nilly, like prepare for it, but going in and doing it and accomplishing it creates this interesting mental space in that the next time you go and have that hard mental thing, generally in and around business, it will feel significantly less difficult and less daunting. It sort of resets that perspective and baseline. But
totally. I mean, I left America with $300 life savings. and a phone number of a place I could stay for free. And then I realized that was easy and these people are amazing. And I just kept taking more risk and more risk and more risk and more risk. And now I have like no fear of anything. And I'm thinking about going backpacking in Pakistan with an ex-military friend to just go hiking in the mountains, and maybe even Afghanistan, because 20 years later, I've done crazy shit up to Mount Everest and all kinds of stuff. So it's the same thing with proving to you. And I also, I haven't done a 50K, but I run 10K every weekend and sometimes by myself 20K. I'm like, that was a half marathon and I'm going to go out for brunch right after it because like you prove to yourself that you're capable of doing anything. And then that imposter syndrome goes away and you're just like, I can just dominate anything. Some of that comes with being, having some narcissistic personality disorder or something. There's a specific type of person. I've never had imposter syndrome, but I also had to dial back a lot of thinking I can do anything on my own. And now, building a team and, okay, I can't do everything. But just the last piece on that, the two things that if you're a founder listening to this, if you're going out and, like still spending a lot of time on like dating or drinking, then those are two easy things to just get out of the way. Like honestly, it's a huge red flag for me when I invest in companies if the founder is super social. And like it's, I've never really said that publicly, but Chamath, the early Facebook guy, he said,
Polyhapatia.
The reason why not San Francisco, Silicon Valley, like Menlo Park founders really crush it is there's no social things to do there at all. Like I've never even been there, and I've lived in SF for like 10 years. I don't even go to talk there. When people like come and talk at this thing, I'm like, I'm not driving 30 minutes down. There's nothing, there's just good food. That's it. But so the founders there have no social distraction. Whereas San Francisco, there's 3 cities on a train that you can get to.
Yeah.
A lot of social distraction. New York tends to be a lot of like fintech finance bros that I won't slander in any kind of way, but like, they're like party people and they win less because there's other stuff to do.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. Where, if you have any parting words or otherwise, where can people find you? Where do you want us to send them?
Yeah, so parting words, if you're an early stage founder listening to this and you have absolutely no money, then definitely go to startupgrowthbook.com. I got a book that's like, $5 on Kindle that will teach you everything that I do for companies that pay $20K a month. So I think that's the best thing. My podcast is called Funded Now What? It's everywhere you listen to podcasts, even YouTube. Adam's the next episode. So if you like this, then you'll like that because it's more about him than me and he's way cooler. And then I'm Andrew Startups on everything.com, Instagram, LinkedIn. And yeah, if you are closing some funding or already, making some money, then reach out. We'd love to hear what you're working on if marketing is the missing piece. But I also do have fractional salespeople, fractional HR and recruitment people. So we can pretty much fix any gap in your startup for like under $5K a month.
Amazing, man. I have a challenge for you. Not this coming summer, but the following summer, you have to look at coming out and running the Rut.
The Rut.
Google
it's
run
50K?
the Rut, runtherut.com. There's a bunch of different distances. They're from like 10 to 21, 28, and 50. There's also a vertical K, but it's on an epic mountain range. It's on an epic mountain range in Big Sky, Montana, across Lone Peak.
Nice.
Has some pretty epic climbs. It's beautiful.
I'm so down, and I am planning on doing van lifing for a couple months this year and road tripping around. So I'm going to pull up on you either way. I want to hunt in backcountry.
Awesome.
That's what I really want. So Adam, thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, Andrew. Appreciate it. A huge thanks to our guests today. Don't forget, this is powered by Pentane Financial and Advertising Command Center for Consumer Brands. Stop what you're doing, put your phone down, walk away from the computer screen, go outside, get some air, do something hard, push your limits, get uncomfortable, become more durable and more resilient, create the stamina required to get through those entrepreneurial barriers, stay in the game for as long as you can, and we will see you next time.